TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. IDF forces are deepening their hold of Gaza City, systemically eliminating Hamas's terror operatives and infrastructure, while in tandem intensifying efforts to facilitate humanitarian conditions for the Gazan population. Israel conducts retaliatory strikes against the Iranian-proxy Ansar-Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen. Germany warns Israel that any annexation of Judea, Samaria, or the Jordan Valley will draw a political retaliatory response by Berlin. IDF forces are deepening their hold of Gaza City, systematically eliminating Hamas's terror operatives and infrastructure, while in tandem intensifying efforts to facilitate humanitarian conditions for the Gazan population to withdraw from the high-intensity combat zones. In an address to the nation, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir announced that the military's actions are carried out according to an orderly plan with the aim of returning the hostages back to Israel and ensuring a decisive defeat of the Islamist Hamas.
Following extensive discussions with the political echelon, the IDF has significantly expanded its operation in Gaza City. We are operating deep in the area, combining ground troops, precision strikes, and high-quality intelligence. Our objective is to enhance the strikes on Hamas until its decisive defeat. All our actions are carried out according to an orderly plan, with the return of the hostages and the decisive defeat of Hamas at the forefront of our minds. Hamas has been struck and weakened, we have defeated its core military power, and now we are expanding the achievement that will bring an end to the war closer.
General Zamir went on to highlight that since the atrocities committed by the Islamist Hamas and its Palestinian terror affiliates on October 7th of 2023, the Israel Defense Forces were forced to act on multiple fronts, and as part of its unrelenting efforts, a new security reality emerged that has effectively altered the Middle East in Israel's favor.
Since October 7th, the day we were brutally attacked, our operational concept has changed completely. In cooperation with all security branches, we eliminated most of Hamas leadership, struck the entire Iranian axis of evil, and removed existential threats as part of Operation Rising Lion. These results, achieved through the sacrifice and heroism of our brave soldiers, in the air, at sea, and on land, have created a new security reality and opportunities that can improve the strategic position of the State of Israel and the situation in the Middle East in our favor.
It is important to know that while the IDF and Israeli officials repeatedly emphasize extensive efforts to mitigate civilian harm, the Islamist Hamas organization, in contrast, released a statement in which it threatened to murder the Israeli hostages in captivity, a statement which infuriated U.S. President Donald Trump.
If they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas as protection, as what they call them bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to pay.
Returning to Israel, where IDF spokesman Brigadier General Efi Defrin underscored Israel's efforts to urge the non-combatant population of Gaza to leave the city for their own safety's sake.
We continue to urge civilians to distance themselves away from the combat zones in Gaza City so they can reach safer areas. In recent weeks, the IDF expanded humanitarian efforts in Gaza, setting up a humanitarian area in the south. This area provides greater access to food, water, medical care, and shelter. And while Israel works to open corridors for civilians to move south, such as the Rashid corridor, Hamas is actively trying to block them, forcing families to turn back and remain in harm's way in order to shield Hamas fighters and preserve its power.
Earlier yesterday, at the IDF headquarters, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, alongside Defense Minister Israel Katz, Deputy Chief of General Staff Major General Tamir Yadai, National Security Advisor Tzachi Hanegbi, and other senior IDF officers oversaw yet another aerial strike against the Iranian-proxy Ansar-Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen, after the terror group had launched dozens of projectiles, to include ballistic missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles, towards Israeli territory in recent days.
I am here at the command center in the Kiryat, together with the Defense Minister, IDF Deputy Chief of Staff, the Director of the National Security Council, and senior IDF commanders. Our forces are operating in several sectors. Several minutes ago, our pilots struck the Yemeni port of Hodeidah, the main supply port for the Houthi terrorist regime. At the same time, our forces are operating in Gaza City with the objective, of course, of achieving the defeat of the enemy, but also to evaluate the population. We are currently making efforts to open additional routes to facilitate the quicker evacuation of the Gazan population, to separate it from the terrorists we want to attack.
Meanwhile, in Brussels, after failing to gain unanimous support from EU member states to impose sanctions against Israel, the non-elected commissioners of the European Union have gathered today to fulfill the wishes of Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to impose new sanctions against Israel over the prolonged war against the Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Ahead of the meeting, EU Commission spokeswoman Paula Pinho said that the commissioners aim to suspend certain provisions of the Euro-Mediterranean Association Agreement between the European Union and Israel.
At the college meeting, the commissioners will adopt a package of measures concerning Israel, specifically a Commission proposal to suspend certain provisions of the Euro-Mediterranean Association Agreement between the European Union and Israel.
Pinot continued by acknowledging that the European Commission would also push for sanctions that demand the approval of the European Council, which consists of leaders of EU member states, in line with President von der Leyen's announced intentions, which she laid out during her State of the Union speech to the European Parliament in Strasbourg last week.
It will include also those which will require an endorsement by the Council. So these are the measures announced by President von der Leyen at her speech last week.
Earlier, during a joint press conference between German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul and his Swedish counterpart, Maria Malmer-Stenegard, the two top diplomats voiced their deep concerns over Israel's high-intensity offensive into Gaza City.
Die neuerliche Offensive in Richtung Gaza-Stadt ist.
The recent offensive towards Gaza City is completely the wrong approach in this regard. We reject this and have made this clear to the Israeli government. Ultimately, this is also the basis for the restrictions that we, as the German government, have imposed on arms deliveries.
Waffenlieferungen als Bundesregierung vorgenommen haben.
As regards today's news about the attack on Gaza City, we from the Swedish side are extremely worried, and we have been very clear from the very beginning when these plans were presented that any change by force of territory would be a breach of international law. And we are extremely worried about the situation in Gaza, and we mean that we need to put more pressure on the Israeli government to let humanitarian aid in, but also on Hamas.
Minister Wadephul continued by revealing, despite Berlin's refusal to recognize a Palestinian state absent a political process, that he would attend the French-Saudi conference in New York later this month to express Germany's support for a two-state solution.
Die Bundesregierung wird immer im Lichte
The German government will continue to reassess the situation in light of further developments in the Gaza Strip and also with regard to possible annexation efforts by the Israeli government in the West Bank. Our position in both cases is very clear. Annexations are contrary to international law and would also require a political response from us.
The German foreign minister further cautioned Israel that if it were to retaliate to the decisions by France, Britain, Canada, Australia, and Belgium, who intend to recognize Palestinian statehood by annexing parts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley, Berlin would trigger a retaliatory political response to Jerusalem's move.
Germany has decided to participate in the conference on the two-state solution, which our close partner France is organizing together with Saudi Arabia next week. I will personally attend the conference in New York. We have also supported a corresponding resolution in the UN Security Council. We remain of the opinion that a Palestinian state should not be recognized at this time, but that a two-state solution must be possible.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Please continue to pray for the hostages and also for the troops now operating in the Gaza Strip, as well as for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. Separately, if you're blessed by TV7 Israel's news updates, which are exclusively donation-based, please consider supporting our nonprofit ministry with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hassan, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.